Why are you losing so much in Warhammer 40K? On this episode, we're going to talk about just that and how to become a better 40K player. We're going to break down some intricate, high-level, intelligent things about what you should do throughout your games to understand why you're losing and how to start winning. On this episode, OCS 22. Stay tuned. What's up, my beautiful man? You?
Hold up, Marty in here. Sweet.
You're already in, brother. I don't got to bring you in. I put you in right before everything starts off. So, sorry, everybody, if I'm going to sound a little bit like mumbled or unclear throughout this episode. I had a serious extraction in my tooth about a week and a half ago, and I still have this lisp. Don't make me say hard words with S's, all right? But yeah, I've been having some challenges as of lately. I took me some pills, and hopefully I feel better here shortly. So what's going on, brother? Talk to me. Talk to the people, man. How's everything going?
I'm just watching you lie to these poor people. This is just him when the nails aren't biting. Don't let him lie to you guys. No, I've been good. I'm excited for tonight.
I'm super excited for tonight too, man. I think this is something that a lot of people, obviously, nobody's infallible, right? Everyone loses. No matter who you might be, you can be the highest level, lowest level, novice to expert. You always lose regardless if it's practice games. And I know we were talking previously that practice games really don't count, right? Like, for example, I played David Ozawa 100 times, an amazing player. He'd lose just about 95% of the games that we played together in practice and then never lose at a GT or an RTT.
He took information and ran with it.
And then beat me twice. Beat me twice in those big events. So, yeah, so we're going to cover a couple of topics here. Just wanted to say hi to Tom. How you doing, brother?
Punish your dice. We'll make them learn to love you.
Exactly. My dice hate me. Buy new dice. Speaking of which, we're going to talk about those sponsors today, right? Baron the Dice. Make sure to go check out Baron the Dice. Also, with that being said, I do have a painting contest that is live right now. If you go to my YouTube, if you go to my Discord, or if you go to my Facebook, it's everywhere. I've posted it everywhere. I have a painting contest going on for a single miniature, right? Any model you want to use, and I'm not talking about, super models in that sense, okay? We're talking about miniature models, all right? So just one miniature of your choosing, obviously in the Warhammer 40K universe, preferably, right? But you paint this up, you have about a month to do it, and I'm giving away some dice up to a $50 value. So if you choose some dice on Baron of Dice and you see a couple that you've been looking at for some time now, and you might not get the opportunity to grab it for Christmas, or you don't want to bother your wife to grab it for you, I will do that for you. I will be spending my own money to get these dice for the people because I want to take care of the people in the Onslaught Gaming 40K family, as always. So, and Baron the Dice is going to be the place that I'm going to buy it from. I really love those dice. It used to be back in the days where it was like Chessex, things like that we would go to, but nowadays it's Baron of Dice that we go to get these wonderful resin dice. And I'm going to actually play that commercial in a little while, not anytime soon, but we'll break down that commercial so everyone can go check that out. There should be a website link in there and a QR code as well. So what's up with you, Thomas? How's life, man? How's everything been going for you?
It's been going great. I've been looking so forward to this episode. I'm so ready.
You're like, I got experience. I got experience with this.
I've lost so much. I've lost so many times. Fun fact: I've never beat this man right here. So we played like what, almost a dozen practice games, and it's the gap's getting closer, but never won yet.
One day, man. Hey, this is a good week probably to take advantage of me, man, while I'm medicated. But like, I got you this week. I got you. It counts. One day, brother. One day. You got me, man. You're going to get me. I know it. It's just, practicing a lot always, and a lot of things that we're going to talk about here. So let's go ahead and jump into it. And we're going to start off with slide number 1, which is the introduction on why you're losing so many games in the Warhammer 40K universe and how to become a better Warhammer 40K player. So losing, first of all, is a normal part of the game and it is a valuable learning opportunity. I know this sounds cliche. I know this sounds stupid to a lot of people. People are looking at this. They're like, duh, we understand losing is a normal part of the game. But what most people don't understand is that the second portion of this, right? It's a valuable learning opportunity. Take it as a learning opportunity. Don't take it to discourage yourself, to look down on the game, to make fun of the game, or say that the game really sucks. To be honest with you, and I want to be completely clear here, right? Usually the problem lays within here, right? Yourself, to be quite honest with you. If you're not pushing it on every single level of the game, and we're going to get into it completely on the next couple of slides, where we're breaking it down so you understand exactly why certain portions might lead for you to lose the game against your friends, your opponents are RTPs, GTs, and things like that. Also, I wanted to talk about one of my recent losses, which I consider a recent loss, which is in July or June. Last time I believe that I lost. I've been to a couple GTs. I've been undefeated with a lot of armies and things like that, specifically World Eaters. But at ATC 5-man team event that happened in June or July, I just don't remember. I want to say it was June. I lost one matchup. I went in there 4-1, or came out of there 4-1, but I lost one in the matchup against Space Wolves. The reason I wanted to bring this up to everyone is that when I lost this match, I really noticed where I lost it, and I was understanding that I didn't know how to deal with screens, or I didn't deal with the screen properly. He had one thing that was different than every Space Wolves army that I've ever seen, and he had Fenrisian wolves in his army. He threw them to the middle of the board, and we was playing the ritual as well, so it made it very hard. And we were playing the ritual on top of that on layout, I want to say 2. So which was the one with all the boxes in the center?
8.
Okay, so that was layout 8. So we played the ritual on 8 with all the boxes in the center. So not only was it already difficult for me to have to move all of these mounted squig hogs through all of that stuff in the center, right? All my vehicles and things like that. But he also put a screen in there. So he made it extra difficult for me to really go through that in the center and deal with the remainder of his army, his Thunderwolf cavalry, things like that. So just wanted to point that out to everyone that, I learned from my mistake that there are screens in the game and you have to have a unit to invest in those screens. And just to let everyone know, depending on what army you have, usually you can have units that can multitask, that can shoot and charge, like Terminators for World Eaters. And me and Thomas have been talking about this, recently, where I'm going to be throwing in some Terminators. I don't think they're the end-all, be-all when it comes to World Eaters, but I think they play a very good role and a better role than Berserkers. So I'm going to throw in Terminators in there. Terminators are very effective in dealing with screens because they can shoot, right? And they have a lot of shots. And they can charge as well. So they're kind of like a double combo when it comes to Orcs. Still World Eaters, absolutely. It's still Terminators, right? Mm-hmm. But when it comes to Orcs, you have to have, because you don't shoot too well, you have to have multiple units, and they have a thing called the SWAT team, where you have flash kits and knobs all in one truck. You jump out with the flash kits, you shoot whatever is in front of you that's screening or something else if there's nothing that's screening, and then you use the knobs to chew up and charge whatever they need to charge in the melee in the fight phase, right? So there is a synergy, there is a comboing that needs to go on, and it's a great synergy and great combo, regardless if you have screens or not. So that's a good way of how I learned how to deal with that. I created SWAT teams, and I created units that can actually shoot effectively. Or the opposite end of this, I always tell people, either you create screens or you destroy screens. So I started creating more screens like Zodgrod and things like that. So I would create screens so that no longer have screens in front of me. Another one is commandos, where you can create a screen and have those, or you can destroy screens with SWAT teams and knobs, things like that. So there is ways to kind of mitigate how people put screens down, or you creating your own screens. Going on to the next slide. Go ahead, Thomas. Take this away, brother.
All right. So here you have a more in-depth look about, why specifically, what you might lose. The first one is, objective priority. And 40K is a game of two things. It is either being in a place or making sure your opponent's not in a place, usually by killing them. And a lot of people focus on killing. It's like, oh, how many dev wounds can I do? How can I get reroll wounds? And that's great. That's needed. But if that's all you're doing, it's why a lot of parking lot style lists, sit back and shoot you for 4 turns, don't score a lot because you're not outplaying the board. You're not actually scoring anything. You're just blasting guns, which is fun and fine. You just, except you're not going to score a lot of points. Which is at the end of the day how the game ends. You don't win by having more points of your army left. You win by more points on the board. Next up, you have list building, which kind of goes running with the parking lot analogy. That would be an example of an unbalanced list. It does one thing very, very well, and the other thing not at all. General Slaughter was saying, screens like commandos are insane in orcs. Because even if someone is too afraid to come touch them, you got them on layout 7, if they're behind that wall, no one's going to come hit them because you got, 1,800 and some odd points of orcs right there waiting to whack you in the head when you come on his side of the field. So now you have someone out in the midfield that can cleanse or engage in all fronts or go up and charge and tie stuff up. And that just goes with the orc play style of applying that pressure while not being pressure put on you. In aggression versus patience, you might hear this shorthand as game tempo. Reading when to engage, when to call the wall if you're orcs, and when to pull back. If you play all your cards too early and get tabled, it is a 5-turn game. Just because you died on turn 3 doesn't mean your opponent stops playing turns 4 and 5. And the reverse is true too. If your opponent overextends you, don't take advantage of them and give them time for the rest of their army to catch up. Well, instead of your 1,700 versus their 500 points, now it's your 1,700 versus their 1,700, but you're penned in your deployment zone.
Yep.
Number 4 is target priority. Let me just play Tal. This is the Tal player's bread and butter because it's their army rule. It is what's most important to kill. If you have, a Vindicator shooting at, your stuff, and you also have just 5 Scout Marines standing on an objective, the Vindicator might hurt, but those Scout Marines are going to score them points on the board. So if you got to handle one, you really got to assess what's needed. Now, of course, if you have Bring It Down, then maybe it gets a little bit weird. But that's just, again, reading the tempo and, knowing what needs to die and what's going to give you the best advantage, either in the game state or on the scoreboard. Deployment issues, my favorite. I have 3 scouts and 3 redeploys because I am personally bad at this. But yeah, if you poor positioning, a great example is if you have scout or infiltrate, don't ever start your guys on an objective. Because if they draw storm hostile or overwhelming force turn 1, you just let them get it for free. But deploying for things like containment, if you draw containment turn 1, make sure you have things that can go out and score at easy 6 points turn 1. Excuse me. So yeah, and deployment issues can really set you up or hold you back from winning a game. And then number 6 is adaptability, which is probably the most esoteric of all these, where it's if you have a plan going in and that plan doesn't work or gets flat out interrupted. Like let's say, you're like me and you absolutely love deep striking, but your opponent's running, 2 navigators and a unit of infiltrators. Well, no, that plan's not going to work. They have like 36 plus inches of the board just completely screened out. You're never going to interact with it. So you got to, reassess what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And this goes into a lot of things. Like I run exocrines, and exocrines are great at shooting and not great at a whole lot else. But what's really fun is they're OC4, and a lot of armies can't shoot into combat with, or fall back and shoot. So I'll just move them up and charge you. I don't expect to kill you, but I out-OC your OC3 tank, and you can't shoot me now.
Yep.
So, just always seeing every possibility, even if it's not like optimally what that unit's in the list for, is very important. You got anything to add?
No, for this one, I mean, there is a lot of things, right, to add on to here. Adaptability, making sure that you're adapting to the play style also of the armies, because it's not just the armies that people are adapting to, it's the play style as well. Like I was saying, I played against Space Wolves. I was used to a certain type of play style with the Space Wolves. They just run out there, mostly Unga Bunga, try to get their Thunderwolf cavalry out there. But this dude actually used the screen and try to play methodically with his Thunderwolf cavalry. That changes the game a lot. That's something that I use against people as well when I play with my World Eaters and my Orcs. So it really throws people's game off when they don't expect that, right? And they really don't understand what's coming towards them. It really puts people in a bad situation. Also, just to recap on deployment issues, right? This is really big, especially when you're going against very fast armies like Eldar, World Eaters, Orcs sometimes. Tyranids can be very fast as well. Sisters can be very fast. Great point, right? There's a lot of armies that can get out there, shoot you, get angles out on you. So you want to make sure that you deploy soundfully and be where you need to be. Remember, if you need to take an extra turn to get yourself in the right position so you can shoot or you can get into melee more effectively, make sure to do that. Don't be too aggressive. Make sure that you're positioning yourself for success and not for your opponent's success. All right. Things like that. So, and we'll go on to the next slide. So just to recap on a couple of those things, that was basically why players lose, right? So, and this is a lot of good reasons. People make sure to take a Photoshop here, even if or a screenshot. When you go to these games, check off these on a list, right? Check these out and say to yourself, am I prioritizing my objectives and my list building properly, right? Because a lot of people fail on list building. They want to just do things for fun, whatever it might be. And I totally get it. Like, play your game, play it for fun. But if you're playing where you want to win, and then you can't complain that you're not winning if you're not building to win, right? You can't have your cake and eat it too. That's not what life's about. Life is not fair.
That is not a statement to just follow meta lists for success, because
that's right.
I have seen people run meta lists with no idea of why they work and get absolutely trounced on. And I've also seen people, myself, for example, who runs off meta lists and does great because I know how they work and other people think they know how they work. Yep. So building for success isn't just copy and pasting. It's and this is something I preach to my friends personally. Find your play style. If you naturally like doing and have fun doing, that's going to work way better than trying to force yourself into what's working for everyone else.
True indeed. True indeed. I know, like we talk about, right? You having 3 exocrine and other people not having 3 exocrine in their list, and you're like, what are they doing? They're not investing enough, right? I totally understand that. That's your play style, right? It helps you out to have 3 exocrines in your list and what you're doing. You have a method to your madness and how you want to do your Tyrannus.
Yep. 1 won't kill a rhino. 2 might. 3, that rhino's not coming around that corner, I promise you.
That's right. And you definitely want to go for overkill most of the time. And that's why you see a lot of people, and it seems boring sometimes, but you see a lot of people who just copy and paste units and they just have redundant amount of units, right? for example, there's people out there who run 30 Terminators for World Eaters, and you're like, why do you need 30? Why don't you just run 10? Why don't you just run 20 or something like that, or something in between, right? Redundancy for some people works better. It's less for them to remember. It's less for them to deal with. And then they know exactly how to deal with having 30 Terminators, right? They know how to, their play style is going to play into that particular army. So I'm glad you brought up that point, Thomas, right? I'm not saying don't play what you're having fun with. I'm saying use the things that you know are going to be effective for you and they have a good synergy. You don't want to just throw things on the wall and see if it sticks. You want to make sure that everything you're using has some type of synergy, has some type of backing to it, has some support, right? Like I was saying earlier, if you have a SWAT team, right? SWAT teams is essentially flash kits and knobs in one truck and they're units of 5s. You're supporting your knobs by having some shooting so they don't get screened out. That is called supporting your units, right? You don't have to do that. You can do other things. You can have Zogrod and take and kill those screens or create your own screens or use commandos and create those screens and then kill your opponent's screens. So there are different ways to effectively do it. Just make sure to look at your army in its total and say, okay, this is what I need to do to deal with this effectively. Last game, I had this issue, so I need to add this into it, right? That's why I play a Khorne Lord of Skulls in my World Eaters army. People don't see that coming quite often. They're like, oh, they're going to say, oh, World Eaters, I'm playing against World Eaters, it's all melee. No. When you have a Khorne Lord of Skulls in there, you have some shooting, and now it becomes a different kind of play style, and it becomes a different type of game. And people get thrown off guard a lot. They're like, oh, okay, now I have to deal with World Eater shooting now and a high toughness vehicle on top of that with a lot of damage. Moth, I got a moth hanging around here.
Running a Khorne Lord of Skulls and 2 Angrons, because it's never just one Angron. But just be real with yourself. Is the most World Eaters thing, and it's so rude, and I love it.
It does.
It's just like, cool, throw Angron in turn 1. Oh, he died? He'll be back, don't worry.
Yep, and Recon by Fire says it keeps the monos, plus they weren't expecting T13 on objective. Absolutely. Those are the things. Those are the things that you want to throw in there. What is the, oh my gosh, what is the big Tyranids one? And
Norn.
that throws me, the Norn Emissary, right?
Yep.
That Norn Emissary is such a big, tough piece that when I see Tyranid players with it, I'm like, how do you deal with this? Like, either you got to leave it alone, or if it starts running towards you, you have to deal with it. So it's like, how do you deal with this piece?
What's great is you just put 2 of them on a 1 objective, and then you have 2 up, 4 up, 5 up, Fatal Pain, 30 OC, and you're like, cool, do something about it.
Yep.
And then you just play the other 3/4 of the board and don't care.
Yep. But it could lead to, like I was saying, it could lead to where if you're just holding it on those objective markers, now I can just play the rest of the board, right?
Right.
And you're no longer controlling the board. So there's 2 sides to it.
And that's that adaptability is accepting it and making a game plan around it.
Exactly. But if you do that and you hold the objective when you need to, and then you start being aggressive with those 3 norms, that's when it starts going out of the window, right? Now you're like, how do I deal with them in my shit? Turn 1, turn 2, whatever it might be, right? And basically, how do I kill them? So
in the ritual, you just put 2 of them on the center objective, turn 1, and be like, cool, do something.
yeah. Yes, that's a big one. That's a big one. And they just keep on shitting out objective markers and other things, just hold it, right? And that people have to deal with it. So having a big piece like that and making it dangerous on the tabletop on top of that is that's when it really starts getting people to worry. So all right, so what you got, Thomas, for framework for improvement?
Oh god, I love this. Yes. So you have your post-game analysis, which is actually very important. And look guys, you can have exactly 1. You can say, I gave you permission, it's fine. 1 bitch session about your dice. We all do it. If anyone thinks they don't do it, they're lying to you. I've done it. General's done it. Everyone I've played with has done it. It's fine. Get out of your system. After that, it's time to, big boy or girl britches and start figuring shit out. So write down key moments where things went wrong and consider on alternative choices. This is great. Love this. This is to look back and say, okay, and to add on to this in practice games, definitely not tournament games. Don't try to set a tournament. You will get in trouble. But just say, hey, do you mind if we do a what-if scenario where I do both and we kind of see how it plays out? Just, to get the knowledge of what it looks like. You got to pick one, of course, but, it to help you learn. And rather than playing through a whole game again, just take the opportunities when you can. Identify whether the issue was a tactical, an in-game decision, which goes back to that hypothetical point, or a strategic list-building unit or a problem, like General Slaughter has mentioned about his Orc versus Space Wolf game. He identified, I don't got anything on my list to deal with this. I wasn't expecting to face it, and, you had to go back to the drawing board and reinsert it to if you came up against it again.
True indeed. Patrick King says, if only I rolled more sixes, I would win.
boy, howdy. Look, come to Crucible next year. We got dice for you.
100%.
Our pregame talk, Recon by Fire, was the gentleman I had the unfortunateness of going into those dice against.
Yes, it was.
Replay scenarios. Encourage players to replay critical moments of the game mentally or with a friend to explore what would have gone differently. Oh, see, look, the hypothetical simulator right here. See, you were one step ahead of me. If I'd just waited 3 more minutes, I'd have seen that. But this is very important. There was a point where me and a good friend of mine, acquaintance of yours as well, we would go and we would just deploy, play through a turn and a half, then set back up again, and then do it again, and then do it again, and just see where we're at, what it felt like. And we weren't doing anything specific, but we were just trying to find out how did it feel? What did it feel like on our end? Did we feel like we had a leg up all of a sudden? Did we feel like we were on the back foot? Did we deploy wrong? And actually, a couple days ago, I played on table 5 into guard on Purge the Foe, just to see how far down do I have to punch up to make that a match with Tyranids. The answer is very far. But it's good, don't just play the matches that you think you have an advantage on or that your army's good into. Play bad matchups on purpose. If you're man, I don't know how to go second on this mission that sucks, go second more. You're never going to find out the information if you just, to be blunt, bitch about it, don't do anything about it. This isn't, everyone has their own method. This is simply what I found to be effective. Right, General Slaughter?
Correct. Sorry, I stepped away for a second. I have people who are entering the house.
You're good. Objective review. Analyze your missions and pregame plan for scoring and not just destroying. This, actually, this is what we did on the Gateway. We did a bunch of hypothetical matchups. Your army, my army, into this army, into that army, on this mission. What's the target? What's the priority? Target priority, mission priority. What do you hold? What do you push for? I played actually Anime Squirrel in chat. We did a Chaos Knights versus Demons game a couple days ago. And I had Shalaxi, and he had a bunch of stuff, and then a Lancer. And I'm looking at the board. I'm if I kill the Lancer, nothing kills Shalaxi on average. So I set up a situation where he brought the Lancer out before I brought Shalaxi. I killed the Lancer, and then Shalaxi walked through his army. It was very rude.
Yep.
But, and he's yeah, I got to figure out, how to what I got to do to make that not happen. And I'm that's exactly what you got to do. You got to figure out force Shalaxi to come out there where you can hit her first. But I had a plan of don't lose her, and she just wiped all his knights off the board. And
destroying is very important, right?
Yeah.
But we need to do it efficiently and at the right timing. It's all about timing, right? We want to make sure that you destroy all your opponent's units as quick as possible, but you also want to make sure that you don't have yourself, just your ass in the wind when you do it, right? You want to make sure that you have some coverage, you have some protection, that you're not putting yourself in a position where you're going to take a pawn for a pawn, right? Or a pawn for a rook, if you're the rook, right? You don't want to lose the bigger, more valuable piece. So, go ahead,
yeah,
my bad.
No, you're good. And that is, analyze missions pre-game to plan for scoring. And this was advice I got way, way back in the ancient days of 8th edition. Killing your opponent should only be a method to either scoring more or them scoring less. It shouldn't be killing for the sake of killing.
Yep.
There should always be the underlying thing of how is this going to score me points, or how is this going to deny them points.
That's right.
And sometimes it's not. Sometimes you just don't have any good options. They played really well, or you just rolled really bad, or you're out of position. You positioned wrong. But that's an identifiable problem to fix going forward. And then to the last point, ask for feedback. Talk to your opponents after games and ask what they thought worked and what didn't. And this is great. Out of all the events I went to Crucible, I went to the Tampa Onslaught Team Open, I went to the Gateway Open. All of my opponents at all of those events, whether I won or lost, we had a good back and forth of, what could have gone better, what could have, worked better, what maybe a better attack plan could have been. At the Tampa Open Team event, I played against a Death Guard opponent, and we were playing Supply Drop because that's a fun mission. And he went for the big 15 at bottom of 5, which is great. I let him have it. I went for a Gambit, whatever they're called now, secret mission, to take his home objective with my Warlord, because he had one Plague Burst Crawler on it, and I had a full unit of Warriors plus Death Leaper. So he got 20 bottom of 5, or 15 bottom of 5, and I got 20. And he was like, "Oh, I should have done that." And we talked about it afterwards. If he'd have done it, he would have won.
Yep.
I'm like, "Yeah, you went for the 15, not the 20, and that you would have won the game if you did." Same thing with Anime Squirrel with our Knights game. He talked about it with me. He's like, "Yeah, if I keep the Lancer alive, I can threaten you, and you can't just run Shalaxi where you want." I'm like, "Exactly. That's why he had to die first." So there's and even if you feel like you played perfectly, ask your opponent, because maybe they saw a chink in your armor they could exploit.
True indeed.
Like General Slaughter always says, this is a game you play with your opponent, not against your opponent, and that even goes after the dice are done rolling.
True indeed. And a lot of people, and not to be negative, but a lot of people are always going to be willing to help you, and a lot of people throughout the game sometimes might affect you, right? I've actually played games where I've asked people throughout games, hey, what can I do? Do you have anything that's going to be a got you moment? And it's very slim and far in between, but some people will use that against you. Like, you don't understand the game, but it's actually a very high level, high competency thing to do in competitive play, to actually ask your opponents, do you have anything that can stop this from happening? Don't be afraid to interact with your opponents throughout the game as well. Also at the end of the game, let them know, hey, I'm here to have a great time. I'm here to do things and play the game by intent. I'm here to make sure that we both have great interactions when it comes to both of our armies, and let the best person win throughout the game. But make sure you're interacting with each other, speaking with each other also throughout the game, and not only at the end of the game. But it is very important to talk about things at the end of the game as well, if you get the opportunity. I know a lot of you sometimes might run into the 3 hours or whatever time limit your actual judges do at your events, gives you at your events. But try to talk to your opponent, even take them on lunch and say, hey, what could I have done a little bit better against your army? Make sure that you're understanding that, and then you're building that into your list. It goes right back to what we were talking about on slide 2, right? One of the first fundamental things about playing the game of 40K is building a proper list that has some good synergy, especially when you have some good understanding of how it's going to work for you. Like Thomas pointed out, don't just take meta lists from online. They're not going to work for everybody. Just because you see it being amazing in somebody's hands doesn't mean it's going to be amazing in your hands. It may not be your play style. Certain armies, like I've told people before, right? They get into the game and start the game for the first time. They're like, I want to play this army, but I'm like, what type of player are you? What's your play style? They're like, well, I'm very melee orientated and I want to destroy things. I'm like, well, Tau will destroy things, but there's no melee included in that, right? So you might want to start with something else and kind of progress to that Tau until you get into that mindset of, hey, maybe I should play a shooty type army and destroy armies in that manner, right? So there are a lot of ways to play this game, and for you to enjoy the armies you want to enjoy, you just have to make sure that you're in a good mindset to do it. So
Absolutely. And like a lot of the people are commenting, it's true. If your opponents are almost always open. Like I've never had an opponent that wasn't open to talking to me, win or lose. Like I went to an RTT playing Demons once and went 3-0, played Mr. David Azawa myself. Yep. And we had a great, very stressful game on both sides, and afterwards sat down and talked about it for about 10 minutes about where I went wrong, where I went right.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, we're going to pay the bills real quick. We'll be right back. We're going to show you, we have about 2 more sections that we're going to show you real quickly, and then we're going to wrap this up. But we're going to pay the bills real quick, and we'll be right back, my peoples. Now with a word from our sponsor, Baron of Dice. Baron of Dice is your one-stop shop for premium wargaming dice. Our dice are made with premium resin materials and colored dyes. Each die is hand-mixed to the desired result and then carefully swirled with 2, 3, or 4 colors in a silicone mold before being laser engraved with a wicked symbol and finished in a matte or gloss polish. There are no imperfections in our dice, no balancing issues, no micro bubbles or mold lines. This is the difference between. You can, quite literally, feel and hear a difference with our dice. Whatever game you play, whatever style your team or faction rocks, we're sure to have something to elevate your game. With over 500 styles and over 4,000 customer reviews, welcome to the best dice on the planet. Now back to our show. All right, my peoples, I appreciate that very much. Make sure to go check out Baron of Dice. It is the sponsor of the show. If you look in the YouTube description section, I have the link on there, and you can get some beautiful resin dice for yourself, for your armies, and whatever you need. And they roll pretty well. And for the ones that Thomas was talking about that we actually ordered for Crucible, so the ones he's talking about for Crucible were actually ordered from Baron of Dice. I believe we got like 3,000 dice, something like that. So that was all beautifully handcrafted from Baron of Dice. So go ahead and check them out. And we're back to the show. So Thomas, we're going to jump into the new slide. Yeah, into practical tips. So some of the practical, beginning practical tips is focus on mission objectives more than kills. And we've already expanded on this. Thomas talked about this a little bit earlier as well. But I wanted to make sure that everyone understands this is a tip that you need to hold with you every single game, right? Focus on mission objectives. Always. If you're playing the game and you have to sacrifice a unit just because it's your most beautifully painted unit or it's your favorite unit in the army and you have to sacrifice it to get points, then that's what you have to do. Don't be afraid to lose out on these units. Don't be afraid to have to sacrifice one of your special, most favorite units just to make sure you continue to get points. For example, I love me some Spawn, or I love me some Terminators, or I love me some 8-bound, right? But if someone shoots that unit off the objective marker, I have the ability in my army to sticky that objective marker once every model has disappeared, right? I put it in a position to get shot. I knew that, but I also knew that I was going to hold that objective marker and I was going to sticky it, and you weren't going to have the opportunity to actually gain it, right? So next time my primary objective scoring comes, I'm going to have that additional points. You're not going to have it. You're not going to be able to take it from me because you took the time, your opponent took the time to actually just sit there and shoot instead of trying to take that objective marker. And they were worried about killing instead of playing the game. So don't be afraid to do that. Also, elevate your list for redundancy and synergy, all right? Evaluate your list, sorry. Elevate also. Make sure you're elevating as well, but evaluate your list for redundancy and synergy. So like I was talking about earlier, redundancy is not actually a bad thing, all right? It can be a bad thing if you're not understanding exactly what you're doing, right? And you're just being redundant just because you feel like that's the best unit and the best data sheet in your army, and you're just throwing it out there just to spam it out. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. I went to WCW last year, right? And I saw a guy who was running 80 Jackals with Angron, Lord Invocatus, and maybe 2 or 3 Spawn units, something like that. And it worked out for him very well. And I've seen other people who've used that same list, and it didn't work out for them very well. He used the Jackals to make sure that he was bringing Angron back. He was being ultra aggressive with Angron, running around trying to kill everything. I think, I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty sure, I'm 99.9% sure, but I want to say, and this is pre-nerf, pre-everything, so this is when World Eaters first came out. He brought back Angron 4 times in that game out of 5 rounds. Yeah, 4 times in that game out of 5 rounds.
That's back when that enhancement could be used every single time.
And that was with the enhancement as well. He took the Lord and Jug for that.
4 Angrons in the face.
4 Angrons in the face, man.
What we're missing here is his opponent killed Angron 3 times. That is impressive.
That is impressive. And he was like 415 points at that time. So theoretically, he was like 103 points for every variant of Angron. 103 points for Angron. Super bargain discount.
You did the math backwards. That's 1,260 points of Angron in a list.
Or that right there. Yeah, you're right. My gosh. So yeah, I saw the dude do that. I watched him. He brought him back at least 2 or 3 times when I watched him play. But I just seen a whole board of Jackals. I've seen the Lord on Jug. Yeah, I know. It was ridiculous. He was just throwing him out there and just getting him to kill every round.
It's just Angron the list.
Yeah, Angron the list. That's it. Angron and his lackeys.
Considering he can pretty much yeet anything into the sun, like on average, he kills a Catan, which is insane.
Yes.
Like that's not even like if I get lucky. They got to get lucky to live, and that is a wild amount of damage.
It's true. It's true, man. So, and he created his own synergy, right? So point number 2, he created his own synergy where he had a method for his madness where he was just continually bringing back Angron and saying, look, the synergy I'm going to use is this book that's going to continue to allow me to reroll, and Jackals are going to allow me to continue to reroll 1 die whenever I need and bring them back. So
they just sticky all over the place if you don't charge me and get close.
And sticky everything, man. I mean, 80 bodies too on top of that, right? Like that's a lot to chew through on top of that. So
yeah.
Even though they're cultists, they're just beefed up cultists, but they're a lot to chew through. 80 bodies are a lot. So point number 3, practice deploying units in a way that maximizes safety and board control. So this is really big in every single army, right? You always want to have trash units. Trash units is very good. Even in your most elite lists, you want to have trash units. If you have an army that it's predominantly trash because you just want to throw a bunch of, with all due respect, Thomas, you want to have 100 Termagants or Hormigons, right? That I would consider trash, but hey, or Jackals for that sake, right?
We know what they are. They know their job.
I would consider Jackals trash too. Having 80 of them is like, it's not super trash, but it's trash.
Don't be humble. Spawn.
No, Spawn are actually better than Jackal. I would, because they're 4 feel no pain, and once you get that blessing. So.
But they are the funniest trash unit in the game. It's like, try to kill it. Oh, you did kill it? Sticky. Oh, you didn't kill it? Heals. Do it again.
Heals. Try to do it again. Exactly. So, maximize board control. This is very important. There are armies that can do it better than others. What I like to do, and I've shown this on multiple videos before here on the show. In the future, I go ahead and I'll show you once again. But basically, what I try to do is I try to take a quadrant. So I'll take the board and I'll break it down into triangles, right? I'll take, if there's a center objective, that'll be the tip of the triangle or one of the tips of the triangle, and get 2 other tips, 2 other objective markers, and just do an entire triad. And I'm going to say, hey, these 3 objective markers, I'm going to own all game long. You're going to have to deal with my entire army to take these 3 objective markers, right? And that's how I create board control on mine. Objective overkills, and you call yourself a World Eater player? Yes, I do, Justin. No 2 Hell Brutes, 3 Hell Brutes. Look, if it works for you and in your meta you're using 3 hell brutes and it's working for you, do it, man. Rock and roll. I can't. That's not my play style using the hell brutes. I don't think they're super effective. I think they're 130, 135 points, 130 points, whatever they might be. But they're not. They're not my play style. I like. You know what? I actually have a new list that I'm dealing with 2 Forge Fiends and the Corn Lord of Skulls, and making World Eaters shooty. 3 Hell Brutes and a Corn Lord of Skulls. That's pretty spicy. I like that. So
to tag on to your point here, all of this to say, like, know your plan. Yes. And then, the last point is going to go into what happens when your opponent interrupts your plan, because a huge point I've come by playing games to realize and talking to people in the community is everyone has a really good plan for how their army is going to work. And in theory, their opponent's playing against them. Like, oh, they're going to kill this unit, and I'll put this unit back on there, or they're exposed, and I'll shoot them. But then, like, things happen. Mainly, Battle Shock is my main tool that no one ever plans for. Yep. And they're like, oh, I'll just use this strat. Well, you can't. Oh, I hold its objective. No, you don't get Battle Shocked. Oh, well, that doesn't guard. I'll order. Well, you don't get orders when you're Battle Shocked. Like, that's the last point. But, like, if you're, and I was talking to a buddy of mine about this, if you're coming to a table and trying to figure out your plan while they're telling you what their army does, it's already too late.
Yep.
Like, at that point, you just got to hope you're a better player and can play the mission better, because you're not going to have a plan as they're telling you what they do.
Yep. You can adjust on what they're telling you to do, right? Like, you're absolutely right. You have to go in there with a plan. They can tell you what they might be doing throughout the game to help you, throw an audible and execute that type of plan. But you need to go in there with the plan. You need to understand your army. Practice with your army. Jump on TTS. Reach out to me. Reach out to Thomas. I won't speak for Thomas, but I'll speak for myself. Like, reach out to us, and I'm more than willing to play a game. I am jonesing to play a game right now. I'm always watching games. I need to play more games this year, especially on my break. Yes, we do have a game coming up on Monday. So I'm jonesing to play some games. I'm going to use that list against you where I have the Forge Fiends and the Corn Lord of Skulls. I want to play, I want to play some weird things. I want to try it out. Try out new things in your list. You never know if it's going to work, right? Play the game for what you intended to play the game for. And hopefully it's not just for winning, but it's also for having fun. So
absolutely.
And on to the last point, number 4, Thomas harped on this and talked about this. But we're going to continue to beat this dead horse, right? Analyze your aggression level and adjust based on the matchup and mission. Make sure that you're being aggressive when you need to be aggressive. We talked about this, me and Thomas, post pre-show, where we talked about certain people in the community being extra aggressive and not being aggressive at the right times and things like that. If you want to mention the people and things like that, I'm not going to mention the people. But, there are times when you need to be aggressive, and there are times when you don't want to be aggressive in the game, and adjust based on the matchup. What that means is, right, be aggressive if you're fighting against an opponent who threw their army on the deployment line. Be aggressive then. Try to take and kill as many of their units then. That way you can take as many of the objective markers and play the game with everything else just sitting in your 6, right? Your 6, your back, whatever, military terms for your back, right? So everything else that you have trash is holding objectives and getting and scoring you those points. Make sure you have those extra aggressive, holding those objective markers, getting you your actions for your secondaries, and be aggressive with everything else that likes to charge or shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that means, to adjust based on your matchup. Don't be extra aggressive if you're matching up against an army that is aggressive themselves and they want to charge you turn 1 and they have the range and speed to do so, or they have the opportunity to shoot you and blow you out of the box turn 1 and you're giving them angles. Make sure that you're playing intelligently. always make sure that you understand what you're going up against. If you don't know, or you're not too familiar with it, and you've only played against that army a couple times, ask your opponent, hey, what can this unit do? Can you scoot? Can you shoot and scoot? Can you jump out, advance, and shoot? Can you get angles on me if I move to this position, right? It doesn't take you a long time, I promise you. Except if you're playing with, G Sterler calls 200 models, or orcs, 150 models, things like that. So
G-Killer culture fine. It's like 8 data sheets. They just take 1 million of every one of them.
Exactly. They'll be fine. Yeah. They'll be fine.
They'll be fine. They'll come back. Just you'll get through it. And on top of this, I know there's 26 armies. Like, I can't learn every army in the game. You're right. You can't. Don't try. But like, you can quadrant it, right? You can have orcs, world eaters, Gladius, or Champions of Rust, like hyper aggressive armies. You can have GSC, Grey Knights, Demons, Aquilons who come in 3 inches away. You can have Tau, Guard, Chaos with Hellbrutes with the super shooty armies. You can have these archetypes that you have a plan into, and then once you get to that army, okay, what's your trick? Oh, you're Guard. You just don't stop shooting me. Great, that's your trick. And then from there, at that point, you can kind of calibrate your plan. 2 examples I have of aggression levels is one for me and one for Anime Squirrel, because he chooses to razz me so I can do it back. Fair is fair. He plays Sisters of Battle. That's his day 1 army. He loves them as much as I love Tyranids. It's the wrong choice, but it's his choice. But he plays Morven Vahl, because why wouldn't you? His critical weakness, though, he starts her off the board so he can come in and get a good angle. The problem with this is I know she's not on the board, and I play Tyranids. So I just spread out with Spore Mines, Lictors, 30 Gene Stealers, and then she comes in off of his back board edge anyway in his deployment zone and isn't even in the game until turn 5 pretty much. And I've told him, like, look, if you start her on the board, I'm way more worried about coming to you, because she will just clear it by herself. You don't need the other 1,600 points or so that her unit's not in. Starting her off the board just gives me free reign to run roughshod over you. And so we have a rematch coming up, and he hasn't put her on the board yet, but I'm terrified because Morven Vahl does not play around. And then the next one is I played against Votan in a tournament not too long ago, and they mark their units, and if they kill you, they get 4 CP. That's fine. I know where you live too, and I'm not worried about it. It's fine. He'll be fine. And I played, he marked all 3 of my Gene Stealer units and like the most forward Exocrine or something. I'm like, cool. I ran at him anyway. He killed the Gene Stealer unit. He got his 4 CP, but he didn't leave his deployment zone until turn 5. So I was like, you can't fly, right? He's like, no, now without these bikes. I'm like, can your bikes fall back and leave the board? He's like, nope, too late. I'm like, cool. Lictors kept touching his bikes. Gene Stealers kept touching his guys and his vehicles, and turn 5 came. He finally came out, and he scored, I think, like 15 on primary. For those of you doing math, you get 4 turns to hold your home, and he didn't even hold his home for one of those. Yep. Great opponent. Nothing against him. He just thought he was going to make me afraid, and I'm like, no, go ahead, get your CP. I'm just going to keep playing the game.
Yep.
So you just kind of gotta like it says, know what you can get away with. And full disclosure, sometimes you're wrong. I've played against Lewis and gone aggressive against him, and then he tabled me on turn 3, and I'm like, well, that didn't work. Okay. So, it does swing the other way.
The pendulum does swing. Yep, absolutely. And nobody's infallible, man. I'll lose to you one day. Don't worry, man.
But that's what the whole episode's about.
Maybe
Monday.
In another lifetime.
If we come back in 2 weeks, I'm not on the show. You guys know how it went down.
I'm just sitting here all sad. I do need to play into Anime Squirrel too, man. I've been dying to get a game into him as well, man. You need to stop procrastinating, Anime Squirrel, okay? You need to have more time in your life, man. I know.
That's how you do it.
That's right, man. I know you don't got that many girlfriends, man. Golly, man.
To throw one more point that I didn't really know where to put, so at the end of the episode seems great. There's another buddy of mine, you know him, Brian, another orc and world eater enthusiast.
Yes.
And I love playing him. Like I am a better player than him. You know, we both, you know, accept it. But he's great to play against because he does not play like anybody I know. He will do stuff that I will like look at and by all conventional logic shouldn't work, doesn't make sense. But because I didn't like formulate it as an actual thing someone would do, suddenly I'm on the back foot and I'm like, where did this come from? Why am I now struggling because you're doing dumb shit? But it does. Like it just creates situations that like I would never even think of. So that, you know, leads to a hidden fifth point. Play against people that have their own play style, like things that don't like, you know, shouldn't work or like don't work. Just play against not only different armies, but different people as well to get that experience of playing. Because it's playing against him has really helped me with my adaptability. Because I'm like, all right, cool. Here's the game plan. Here's what you're gonna do. Here's what I'm gonna do. And then 2 turns in, and I'm like, why? What? This started as a French test. Now we're speaking Spanish. What happened? So
it threw you off guard a little bit, huh?
Yeah, and that's actually where I got the put exocrines or OC4 on objectives. So I'm like, cool. Because he would like, oh, I'm gonna leave this truck here because orcs get 1 million trucks for no points. Yep. And I'm like, OC2 or 3? He's like, yeah. I'm like, cool. Exocrine. He's like, you can't kill me. I'm like, I don't care.
Hey, we pay 65 points for those trucks. We used to pay 50, which they were damn near free at that point.
What was it, like 7th edition where you got a free transport with every like infantry or some crap?
Yep.
Before my time, but I heard of the dark days of 6th and 7th editions.
Space Wolves used to get free drop pods if you took Ragnar. Yeah. So you're like, you start the game and you're like, all right, so I'm deployed, and you're like, well, you have nothing on the board. I'm like, I know. I deep strike everything turn 1 on my turn with drop pods. It was so stupid.
Just to highlight Dustin real quick, I am terrified of orc players right now. Orcs are an army that I need much more games into because I don't know what to do with them with Tyranids. Like my ongoing plan is roll battle shock dice and hope it comes out in my favor. Orcs are terrifying right now.
Orcs can be dealt with, and I deal with orcs very well because I play them and I understand them very well. It's you have to punch them, and it's harder said than done, right? But you have to punch them before they punch you, man. And if they're not putting them inside vehicles, they're fucking up.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. They're putting them inside vehicles, and I'm Tyranids. I only have so many exocrines.
That's when you use the yes, exactly. Use the exocrines to crack them open one at a time, and then have all the buggies eat everything on the inside. Here's the
thing. In my experience, orc matchups come down to, did I shadows in time, and am I in position to take advantage of it? Which is a terrible battle plan, and I need a better one, which is, you know, again, this episode's entire point. So.
True indeed. So finishing off practical tips number 4, where we didn't touch about the missions, right? Also, make sure that you're either being aggressive or not aggressive and being conservative on the mission type as well. That is very important when you're playing these games out. Missions are very, very relevant to you winning the game, holding objectives, being aggressive, and not being aggressive as well. For example, right, if you're playing the ritual, you know you have to go for the center of the table. You know that you have to set up your army. And this is, I keep on talking about the ritual because I know this is Thomas's most beloved mission.
No, the ritual is fine. I would say if you plan on going to an Onslaught or Onslaught Gaming or a General Slaughter event, you're going to play the ritual. That's not the one I have a problem with. It's Purge the Foe.
Purge the Foe, correct. That could be rough. Yes. That all these little units that can be killed so fast.
Spore mines, lictors, gene seller units are 2 because there's a brood lord. It is a rough mission for bugs. Haven't lost it yet, though. I will note that. I've gone to 3 of your events, and 3 of them, I have not lost the Purge the Foe match.
So keep hating it and just keep on doing well at them.
I'm driven by spite.
All right. So the last one is encouragement, right? Make sure that you stay encouraged, right? Everybody likes to talk crap about Warhammer 40K. We totally understand it. But I don't want to hear your complaints and say, I'm going to and continue to play the game and not continue to get better or figure out why you're losing the games to get better, right? So reinforce the idea that progress takes time. Every loss is a step forward and towards becoming a better player. Make sure you're practicing. You're practicing against people who are better than you. You're watching videos like this where you can analyze exactly what's going on with your games. Try to pair up against players in a matchup, in an RTT. Even if you feel like you're going to lose that, call somebody out. At my events, I allow call outs, which are challenges, right? Thomas knows that. You ever want to call somebody out?
I got a couple.
Call them out, man. Maybe it'll teach you a thing or two, right? Like, I want to play against, not only is Anime Squirrel, an awesome person, but I want to play against Anime Squirrel because I want to play against his army, right? Sisters of Battle are a very tough army. I want to make sure that I understand it. And if I have a good understanding of the army and I'm having a good time with my bud, right? I get 2 for 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the last one, number 2, end with a call to action. So this is a call to action for me and Thomas to you. Ask players to share their losses in the comments section for a community discussion. So go ahead, everyone, if you want to kind of break down exactly how you've been feeling any of your games you kind of want to discuss. Here, let's get a little close-up of the both of us, right? Beautiful.
While they're doing that, something a lot of you guys don't know, some of you might, but I went on an 80-game loss streak when I first picked up 40K, because my entire game plan, and let me know if you guys can figure out where this broke down for me, was put 80 Gene Stealers on the table and just run at my opponent.
Yep.
I'm like, I can move 42 inches. And my game plan stopped there. It didn't matter the mission. It didn't matter the army. It didn't matter the train layout. I was just going to run Gene Stealers at you. And I got tabled constantly. And those are some of the best games I've ever played.
Yep.
And
those are the best games for me too, man. When I actually do lose.
Yeah. I win. And that's the
twice a year. Twice a year.
Get 2. That's the other thing is play with intentionality. Like, not every game has to be a super competitive game. You know, we all play silly games. We have our fun plastic models. You just put them down.
True indeed, man. Much love, Tom. I love that attitude, man. Keep it up, brother.
100%. It's a game. If you're not having fun while you're doing it, then I mean, why make yourself do it?
Exactly.
Torture. If you play Drakari, I get it. It's a lifestyle thing.
It's enforced. You have to because you're obliged to do it.
Recon by fire.
So what was this? So as long as I feel that take a butt kicking, and so as long as I feel that I can take a butt kicking, you can take all the butt kickings. Just make sure to provide them back. All right, give them back. And then you were saying recon by fire. Go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, he went up against a solid niche player, 2 squad Gene Stealers that moved 32 inches, 34, thank you, and locked him in his deployment zone for 2 turns. Should I have pushed up more aggressively? With Canis, yes. I'll tell everyone right now, on record, most nidlists just can't deal with Canis. Because I will say, Recon, once Canis came out to play, my army just stopped working. You just walked. He literally walked Canis the long way around from his deployment zone and ended on my objective. And I couldn't stop him. There's just Canis is an unkillable thing for Tyranids.
Unless you have like the Storm and Emissary or the Exocrines, right? Like they can fucking take care of that. No, really?
You would to kill Canis on average, you need 3 what are they called? Tyrannofexes? All with line of sight and getting
3
heavy. Yeah. Because Exocrines wound him on 5s and he gets a 4-up invuln because they're gonna spend the CP because why not? Or they already spent the CP to give him +1 save and he has cover, so they don't care. So he's taken 3-ups or 4-ups, and his 3 damage a pop with a 6-up invuln. 3 Exocrines don't kill him on average. Canis is rough, man.
Canis is rough for any army. Even though he got nerfed, he's still rough.
Oh, he's so good. Like I get it. I don't. It's Canis is one of those few Imperium models that I actually don't mind. He's chill. Like I'm okay with models like him, the Silent King, Mortarion. Just let them vibe and do their own thing. But
he said you positioned your exocrine well though, so if I could shoot him, all three could.
Yeah. I promise you, Canis doesn't care.
Yep.
3d6 plus 3 shots, averages like 10. Hitting on 3s, 2 of them reroll 1s, wounding on 5s. You're gonna rotate ion shields. Let's not lie to each other. You take like 9, maybe 12 if I get really lucky wounds or like saves. If you fail all of them, 6 up Fennel Pain. Canis took 9 damage, and now all 3 of my Exocrines are ready to get shot and punted by him.
He could take out 2 of them per turn, right?
Oh yeah. Between shooting, charging, tank shock, and fighting, 2 Exocrines are dead.
Yep.
It's not even a question. Canis is... But my plan in tonight's is just play a... Luckily, there's 1,500 points of not Canis on the field. So, that's what I focus on. And it also depends on the mission. The mission we were playing... the ritual, it worked out where you could still kind of do your things in the back and throw them out. Like, if you're playing...
it was the ritual you were playing too?
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah. You should have definitely been more aggressive with Canis Rex on that one, brother.
Yeah, as I say, if you put Canis in the center, it gets real rough real fast.
Real fast.
But again, it's a learning experience to know. Because like I said in the beginning of the episode, 3 Exocrines, even for someone that has Canis, looks real threatening. Because it's not impossible that all those Exocrines get 9 shots at 3 damage each, do 27 damage times 3. Now Canis is dead like 4 times over. It's not likely, but that is a mathematical possibility.
So what did he have? He had Canis, he had another big knight, he had some Warglaives or Helverins. What did he have in his list?
If I'm remembering correctly, he had Canis. I think he had like 7 or 8 Warglaives. He had a Entourage from the Imperial Agents, and he had the Calidus.
Okay.
I believe. He can correct me. I don't remember specifically. Look, I already told him pre-show about those dice and their ability to roll 6s. It was insane. Yeah, he had Canis and 9 Armigers.
Wow. Okay.
I think I dropped 6 of them by the end of the game.
All Armigers for actions. Yeah. He probably should have screened out Canis, put Canis right in the center, made sure you didn't have all the angles for all of your Exocrine to shoot him, right? And just set him there with a couple of screened Warglaives, and he probably would have taken that entire game. Yeah, no, it's but again, they see he's asking the questions and going over the what to go forward to do. Yep. Layout 1. We had he was a teammate of mine at the Tampa Onslaught Open team event, and we had the bye on the last day, but we still wanted to show up to show support and hang out. So we just kind of played as if we were playing that round. And we did a lot of what we talked about here, where there was a lot of what ifs and hey, why'd you bother taking that risk? You could have just done this instead, because it wasn't a real game, it was a practice game. Equals punching. I'll have the list I run, I apologize to every opponent before I play them, because it is just not fun to play into, and I acknowledge that. That is actually what he did. He made an objective, and he put Canis right next to it to help guard it with Armigers. No, thank you, Tom. Does that mean you're leaving us? Don't be leaving me, man. Don't be leaving, Thomas, okay? Love you, brother. Have a wonderful night if you're leaving. But you're welcome, as always. Yeah, no, if you a little bit higher, he said I did a great job at stopping the Calidus from vecting anything. Absolutely. Put that Calidus in charging range, and no. I need my CP. I have reactive moves. I have opportunistic battle shock tests. Needs to die.
that thing cannot be allowed to play the field. I'm actually super excited to play the Ultramarine Vanguard list that has Calgar and Ventress.
Oh my gosh!
Because I have a strat that just gives the entire unit of Gene Stealers or Warriors precision, all of them. I don't care if you're a 4 up. You're gonna die.
The problem is you're gonna pay a high tax for that strat.
I have a Hive Tyrant. I'll even it out. I'm not worried about it. The game
he's gonna affect everything. He's just gonna say, "Hey, CP tax now is 4."
2 Armigers, I believe, in Canis. I ended the battle with, I think, 2 Death Leaper and 1 Lictor, and that's it. But that's how most of my games end. Most of my games end with 2 models, 3 models max.
Yeah.
Even into Anime Squirrel, where I blocked him into his deployment zone, I had my Biovore, a Lictor, and 2 of my 3 Exocrines. Everything else was tabled because I just kept throwing it at him to keep him from playing the game.
Yep. And that's what you do. See, this is what we talked about, my peoples. If you got to sacrifice your entire army just to get the points, then that's what you got to do, right? You want to win the game based on the objectives, scoring, things like that. It's not based on if my unit survives, I'm going to have a heart attack and I'm going to feel like crap. When we're talking about aggression, we're talking about aggression for your army, not your personal aggression. So don't be a dick.
The nails don't actually need to bite. It's okay.
Yes. Don't actually be an aggressive asshole.
Don't take your friend's teeth if you play orcs. They need those.
Or should I?
Just start getting teeth at events.
Recon, don't let him be humble. He tries to do that shit to me all the time. He tries to be humble. He says shit like that all the time. Yeah, he's a very, very good list builder. He plays these very, very good armies and he plays them very, very well. So don't let Thomas do that.
That's my playstyle though. My playstyle, I love the logic tree that 40K creates. And I love the idea of I don't need to play perfect. I just need you to play worse.
That's right. And expose them and capitalize off of their mistakes.
And that's why I said opportunistic battle shock test. My list does not have a game plan. It has I move fast and which unit didn't get lucky.
Yep.
And he's right. I make my opponents make more decisions. Do I want to fall back? Do I want to expose this? Is threatening this worth it? Is contesting that objective worth it? If, like you said, no one's perfect. If I give you enough problems, you're going to choose the wrong answer eventually.
Yep.
And then my only solution is just taking advantage of it.
Yep.
So, and he's right. That is exactly what my current list does. And even the demons list I'm playtesting and running is -1s to hit, advance and charges, minuses to your leadership and the shadows or around Death Leaper and synapse creatures when I call shadows. Just a bunch of things you can't plan for and you have to deal with right there, right now.
Yeah, but Anime Squirrel, I heard you don't take his advice though.
my friend, explain to him you talked about your Terminators and World Eaters, right?
Yeah.
How do 10 Terminators behind a wall feel about 3 Exorcists shooting them?
Good if I can make all my saves.
All right. Turn 1, they all shoot you because you're in range. Turn 2, they all shoot you because you're still in range and haven't charged out yet.
I'm pretty shitty at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that I keep trying. He's like, oh well, one exorcist. He did one exorcist. The math isn't good. I'm like, right, one exorcist once.
Yeah.
You run 3 of them for 3 turns in a row because you've screened it out. And they're not getting near you with dominions and immolators. At some point, they stop having an army. It stops becoming a problem.
It's true. Yeah. And I mean, as long as you screen them out, right, they're gonna survive.
Now,
so
to be fair, I don't think indirect fire is his play style. So, don't do that maybe, but also Exocrines are D6 plus 3 shots blast themselves and it does work.
It does work. like you were telling me before, like me and Thomas played a game, the last game that we played, and he was like, "Oh, it's just exocrine that they only do a couple of damage, blah 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 blah." I'm like, look, if you fucking spike on those dice, it will delete anything, okay? And I'm in fear of it because they have the ability to spike that high. Mm-hmm. So it's just like emulators. It's just like any of those units, right? Exocrine might not have a lot of shots. I might not have a unit that you're going to use your blast on, but doing flat 3 damage, I mean, that's like one Terminator not without a shield. So
sorry, emulators do D6. They have the tank commander damage.
No, I'm talking about your exocrine. Well, yeah.
No, there was like a week later. I had to send you an apology because I played Brian and I shot him with 2 exocrines and Angron just died. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I literally paused our game. Like, Brian, hold on, I gotta make an apology real quick. I didn't think this was possible. I wasn't a believer, and I sent him a text in the middle of the day, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. You were right.
God has given me enough fear in life to understand to fear exocrines.
A point I said, well, those of you still chilling with us, thank you, first of all. But a point that you told me that I've actually, this list I made is your fault, and I will blame you for it. Because I used to parse out stuff and send you 200 points here, 400 points there. And I will always remember these words. This is very good advice. And this comes from the man himself. You told me, if I come at you with overwhelming numbers. Because if I send 200 points up a flank, you're going to send 600 and win.
Yep.
And so that now I have 3 exocrines. And like Recon said, I position them to where if you can shoot one, the 3 can shoot you. I have 30 Gene Stealers that, like, turn 1, 2 are charging you. Turn 2, 8's charging you, and maybe a unit of warriors is joining them, plus exocrines finally got angles to shoot you.
And that's why I told you, 1 is nothing, 2 is getting more aligned, 3 is just fucking scary.
Yep, and that's where I'm at. 30 Gene Stealers and 3 exocrines.
Where 2, Angron will survive 2. 3, I'm worried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, if they roll 6, 7, 8 shots and all hit on 2s and the other 2 re-rolling 1s, it gets real scary real fast for a lot of things.
Yep. Real scary real fast. Yep.
I've seen Magnus flinch.
Man unit of Exalted 8-bound is like, poof, bye, confetti.
That same game, there were 2 regular 8-bound that I shot 2 exocrines into. They didn't take a single point of damage. I didn't roll bad. He spiked on his 5s. It was insane. It was some insane rolling.
3 Lords of Souls. Got it.
Look, I told him, take 2 Angrons. Just take 2 Angrons.
Yeah. Deal with a 20-boy squad and a pain board and war balls. Is it correct still to change it to simply deny them the charge in the way of the path or not?
No. Not 1 Warglaive. 2 Warglaives with tank shock, yes. Because if all 20 boys put their attacks into 1 Warglaive, they can drag it down.
I mean, if you have 2 big boys or even Canis Rex, like, I'd shoot all of Canis Rex into it and then just do foot stomp into that unit and they're going to disappear.
Canis is just carrying that Knight Army on his back.
Everything, man. He does it.
No, yeah, I've played against him so many times. So
yeah.
Our buddy Pace has him. Doug has him. Every night player I've ever played in a tournament has him. Some Grey Knights armies has him. Sisters used to take them.
Yep.
And hell, even Guard was taking them for a little bit, I think, before they got their update.
Yep. They're really good right now, though. They're in a really, really good position.
I love Aquilons because people are like, oh no, they're gonna drop in 3. What am I gonna do? And I'm like, I'm gonna kill them. Like, drop in 3, shoot me, then die.
I'm just happy that WCW, even though it's not an official document, I did a video last Friday. Go check it out, please. But I talked about everything that's happening at WCW. I'm glad they ruled it the same way I've been ruling it. Is Aquilons cannot rapid ingress and stop you from doing what you need to do. It is the most broken thing. I'm glad that they ruled it that way. It's just the weird rules interactions with 40K sometimes, man. It just really for what is it, 100-point unit too, just to stop you from doing. Yeah.
Actually, I think it's like 90 or 80 for 10 guys. I don't even think it's triple digits. It's weird. But you want to hear true Tyranid privilege?
Yeah, what's that?
I just put a lictor on the center of an objective. And I'm like, do something about it.
Yeah.
Then they can't come in on the objective. And if I put two lictors on the objective, like cool, statistically you barely kill one. And you almost certainly don't kill two, and you're not going to score the points because you can't get on it. So good luck.
True indeed. And that's to my point that I want to tell Tom right now, right? So boys have a role in orcs. If you put a war boss with a big mech, you know, the new beautiful sculpted big mech with the big ass gun, freaking looks amazing. You put that big mech in that unit, he can run through screens and ruins.
The old Wraith rule.
That is powerful. Yes, that is powerful. Dude, it is so hilarious because you can actually take that big mech into mech guns and run through ruins with the mech guns and the big mech. It's hilarious. So, boys have a role if you have a character, an attached unit to it. But boys definitely have a role. I understand what you're saying. Beast Snaggers are absolutely amazing. Yes, they're your staple. They got a points reduction. But boys definitely have a role, man. And if you're using them for that, or you're using them for Green Tide, and in Green Tide, they're absolutely amazing.
And that's where Recon was referencing. I actually watched that game on his channel that he was talking about where he Crusader killed 7, and then the guy immediately brought back up 5 of them. Or not on his turn, brought back up 5. Yeah, that is 20 boys with a pain boy is, especially during the wall with a 5-up Fennel Pain or 5-up Invuln. Rough.
Yep. And then, like you said, and then you just bring boys back. Okay, you killed a couple of them. You killed 7. Now I bring 5 back.
And as a lover of the D3 plus 3 strat from Invasion Fleet, getting a minimum 8 OC back is wonderful.
So I have seen a large difference in damage output when I'm able to keep the overlapping buffs between 8-bound, Exalted, and Angron. Do you prioritize that synergy when staging, or are you spreading them out based on secondaries? So, to be quite honest with you, because I have the Khorne Lord of Skulls, right? I usually have Angron around the Khorne Lord of Skulls. Unless I'm in a particular round when I'm using the 8-bound with or the Exalted 8-bound with the 8-bound and Angron himself. So yes, I do use them for stage. I don't stage them. I don't start them off like that, but I put them in position close enough to where I can actually start staging them and executing proper combats with that type of synergy. Meaning, I'm usually around the Khorne Lord of Skulls so I can give him rerolls at the beginning of the game. For rounds 2 and 3, I'm moving Angron ever so closer to Exalted 8-bound and 8-bound ever so closer to Exalted 8-bound. So then they're rerolling hits and rerolling ones to wound. So yes, you're going to definitely see that damage output go skyrocketing, right? Because you're going to have that extra efficiency, especially when you start using stratagems where you're wounding character, vehicle, and monster units on 2s, and then you're rerolling 1s based on your 8-bound. So you want to synergize all of those, and you want to keep them pretty close, but you want to do it intelligently, right? So you want to make sure that you always have an 8-bound unit around your Exalted 8-bound, Angron next to your Khorne Lord of Skulls, but right in the middle of all of your Exalted 8-bound too. So, kind of Khorne Lord of Skulls, Angron, and Exalted 8-bound, right? So you kind of want to create a triad. And if you've ever seen me play and known me throughout the years, I always talk about triads. I got it from a game that I used to play. Oh my gosh, this Corvus Belly game, Infinity, right? I used to play an army that was called the Toha, and they used to use triads. Everything was synergized. It would have a character that supports another character that supports another unit, right? And I got the philosophy from that game. So I use it in 40K, and I use it in 40K all the time, even when I'm doing my missions and secondaries and things like that. I'm sorry to go on a soliloquy here, but these are one of the things that I really like coaching about and talking about, especially when it comes to world eaters. You really want to synergize all of those abilities together, and yeah, you're definitely going to see your damage output go very, very, very high. Terminators can be very good for that as well, but your damage output is not going to be super high into certain units, and they're nowhere close to what Chain Fist can do in Exalted 8-Bound. So yeah, I do synergize them together, and I try to make them do whatever I need them to do, especially when I'm going against great unclean ones. Right? That's happened to me a couple times. Thomas knows that. I've been against some demon armies. He doesn't run great unclean ones, but we went to Gateway, and I ended up fighting against, I think it was 2 great unclean ones, and one of them they had the 4-up Feel No Pain enhancement. So I hit him with like 9 Exalted 8-Bound and still couldn't kill the asshole. So but that's because I didn't synergize it. I didn't have Angron around, and I didn't have the 8-Bound around to allow me to reroll. So if I would have had that around, I would have killed it a lot quicker.
But that also, though, that opponent was an absolute gem of a player in sportsmanship.
Oh, dude, he was amazing. Amazing. I loved everybody that I played with at that event. They were absolutely amazing individuals. They're not as good as Florida players, but they're a lot nicer.
They're doing their best. I mean, the best player at the event was,
no, he wasn't a dude.
Top general there wasn't even a Florida player. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But, there you go.
Yeah.
But
all right, you got anything else, Thomas? All right, so when you have Angron to pop a Land Raider and Exalted for the dude inside, do you try to surround the entire transport or leave a gap to force them to come out of that location? So if you want to charge with both units, right? So if you crack with Angron, which Angron 9.5 times out of 10 times. Yeah, right. 9.5 out of 10 times, he will crack that Land Raider. He will have done the job for you. They're going to have to hop out, and then you can just consolidate the 8-Bound, the Exalted 8-Bound unit, into that unit, and then fight them from there. So.
And if they emergency disembark, you can pile in and consolidate into them. Then they got to take a battle or a leadership test to not get hit in their turn, which is even funnier to some people. I'm some people.
See, but your army can do that. I can't screen it out and then make them die coming out because I don't have enough bodies with.
No. But what I'm saying is yours is funnier because the Exalted 8-Bound prevent them from falling back, so they run away. You're like, cool, I'm just going to move 6 inches and touch you. Oh, I can't hit you this turn. I'll just wait like 20 minutes until it's time to hit you again.
Yes, exactly. and then do our ability where you can't fall back unless you do the leadership test. Exactly.
Yep. Which is annoying. It's a leadership test, not a battle shock test. Come on, GW. Let us use Synapse.
No. I like that it's different. I like that. I actually like that.
Because it can't be Miracle or Fate died either, and that's good stuff.
That's good stuff. Yes, and that's what I like about it. Yep.
But
all right, everyone. Well, anything else, Thomas? You want to break down to everyone else?
Just one last quick point is, if you build a list, play it for more than one game into one army on one mission. That is a terribly small sample size.
Yes.
Like don't play one game, decide it doesn't work, and then change it because you get a feel for a list. However many games, it might be 2 or 3, it might be 10 or a dozen. But give it a chance on multiple layouts, multiple missions into 2 or 3 armies.
Smart man. I was going to say the same thing. Multiple missions, multiple layouts. You never know. Could have been the mission. It could have been the layout. Could have been you having a bad day. Could be a lot of things, right? So try it out. Keep practicing. Stay encouraged. Keep on playing 40K. And blame your dice once again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's dice's fault. 100%.
Indiscreetly, though. You just randomly, instead of whine, you just completely just scream out of nowhere. And your opponent's like, what the hell is going on? I was like, no, it wasn't towards you, man. I'm just going through Tourette's.
Me and a decently prominent player, and I don't want to call him out on here, but we had a running joke in our game at the Onslaught Open that if we could have a 40k superpower, it would be just roll average. if we could just roll average, we'd be happy.
There are some people that need to do that. Yes, 100%. There are some people.
No, that's all I got. We've had a good time, hung out. I think we got our point across. The horse is officially dead.
Horse is officially dead, and hopefully everyone learns how to be a better 40k player, right? Hopefully people, go rewind this, take screenshots, write it down. Those points are very important. They really, really are, man. I know people, can be lazy sometimes, and they're like, I'm just gonna put it in my head. No, man, write it down on a notepad, write it down on your phone, on a notepad or something on your phone, and go through these steps when you're playing these games, after you're playing these games, before you're playing these games, right? Make sure that you're understanding what you need to go do going into these RTTs, going into practice games, whatever it might be. Talk to your opponents. Make sure you're communicating. It's all about the experience between you and your opponent, right? So,
yep, 100%. And my personal philosophy is losing just means I got room to get better.
That's right. I hate not losing sometimes because I feel like I'm not learning, and then I'm going to end up losing one day, and I'm not going to not know what I should have learned those games that I wanted.
You humble bragging mother.
I do. Unfortunately, sometimes I really do feel like that because I feel like it's like maybe I should have lost something, or maybe I should have been in a worse position so I can learn. But shit happens, man. I don't want to be at that championship moment and lose that game, right?
And then get kicked down the stairs, yeah. Yep.
And it was like, man, I never learned, right? Yep. So put me in a bad position. All right, Thomas, tell everybody goodbye. I'm going to do a quick people. Thank you, Thomas. Much love, brother. Thank you, everybody, for participating.
Yep.
He was saying thank you before I rudely kicked him out. My bad, brother. So just wanted to tell everybody, thank you so much. Much love. Thank you for participating. As always, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Onslaught Gaming 40K platform. As you know, or you should know, every week I put out content, every live show. It's me and Thomas, the wonderful Thomas, always being there for the community and putting all of these wonderful videos together. For the record, this was his thought. He wanted to kind of do something like this. And I am super excited. I am super happy that we were able to do this for the community. And he took reign of everything because I have this tooth condition and I am in a lot of pain. So I don't want to keep on talking anymore, even though I love you all so much. But remember, all right, Onslaught Gaming 40K, where victory is just a strategy away. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful night. Take care. Hopefully I see you soon. Happy holidays if I don't see you again.